to the United stand. Have we got news for you? And that is that the exits at Manchester United are not getting very close. There is options there, but Manchester United just cannot sell players. And this is the reason why Ruben Amorim cannot get a midfielder in, cannot get a goalkeeper in. These players have to be moved on. And if we could have actually got them out of the football club earlier, we might be in a much better position, because that game yesterday, upon reflection, I watched Match of the Day 2, I watched back the highlights, I watched back some of the fans forum, I was on Twitter, I was looking back at our game, and I thought to myself, that is a much better team. We are a goalkeeper and a midfielder away from, and just gelling in general, like the forward players need to gel. But we are so close to being a proper team that I'm not saying is going to compete for the league, but can actually compete. We made a team that has competed for the league for the last couple of seasons look poor yesterday in Arsenal. Okay, it's the first game of the season. Okay, yeah, maybe some of their players are a little bit rusty. But if Manchester United had actually gone out and got a goalkeeper and got a midfielder, we would have won that game. So people can talk about being unlucky. People can talk about how, oh, we might have been able to win the game if Bayern made that mistake. We made that mistake by going into the season without solving all of our problems. Okay, yes, you can't go out and spend 300 million. I know that there is, you know, certain financial rules we cannot break. We've got a credit facility that we've got to abide by. But if we would have been able to get Garnacho out, Hojlund out, Anthony out, Sancho out earlier, we could have had a real good chance of having that keeper in, having that midfielder in, that Amorim is demanding. And I know Goldbridge was talking about on the show this morning that Ruben Amorim's priority is a midfielder. Maybe he's accepted his fate with the goalkeeper. But you don't leave Onana out of the squad and make that statement. He came out and said he's not injured. Bayern and Tom Heaton played well in pre-season. I've got to pick, I can pick two, and I've picked them. He said that. He didn't have to. That is a statement. He might even stick by Bayern for the rest of the season. The way he was defending him in that press conference, I wouldn't be surprised. Onana is not his guy. No matter how well they get along behind the scenes, as a goalkeeper, if Ruben Amorim, any player at the club, he doesn't want you there, he will let it be known. And I think that was him letting it be known. I might be wrong, but that's how I feel. The midfielder, we know through numerous top-tier journalists that Ruben Amorim behind the scenes has been saying, go and get me Baleba, go and make a statement, bring me a midfielder in with athleticism, with physicality. And they were the two glaring issues on the pitch for Manchester United yesterday. And it begs the question, if we could have just got them in, how much of a better side would we be? Don't get me wrong, so many positives to take, and I want to talk about a little bit about a midfield dilemma with Bruno, with Mason Mount, and Mbeumo Cunha. All them players, you know, the new signings in Mbeumo and Cunha look fantastic, but the fact that we can't get players out is really blocking us from going and being able to get a Martinez or a Donnarumma, and, you know, the dream, which would be a Baleba, or even an Adam Wharton who've linked to, or somebody else potentially of that calibre. I mean, it's rare to find a player that good, but we could have done it if we would have managed to get these players out the door, which other clubs seem to do that we can't. Okay, it might be the mistakes of the past leadership team at Manchester United, but, you know, the chickens come home to roost and you've got to deal with that. So this is the news coming out about a new potential bid for Alejandro Garnacho, and I've got my own sort of comments to bring in, and something I was told last night actually that doesn't make me too confident in this. But it is from Simon Stone that Manchester United are braced for an offer from Chelsea for Alejandro Garnacho, but are determined to not let the young winger leave on the cheap. Senior figures believe that Garnacho is keen on the move to Stamford Bridge, which is the main reason he is still at Old Trafford nearly 3 months after Ruben Amorim told him to find a new club. So we know this. We know that Alejandro's Garnacho priority is Chelsea. We know that he's only wanted Chelsea. Other clubs have come forward and he's refused to go. United can't do anything about that. They really can't until Garnacho waits until right at the end of the transfer window. The reason this is an issue for us is because I was told last night, and take of this what you will, but I was told last night that Chelsea and Garnacho and Man United is nowhere near done. Garnacho is desperately hoping and waiting to go. He is pushing this move through with every ounce in his body. He wants to go. He's desperate to join Chelsea, but Manchester United and Chelsea are nowhere near close to agreeing a fee. Time is ticking. Time is ticking. You know, it is August 18th today. The transfer window closes on September the 1st. And the issue with this is Alejandro Garnacho is our pure profit. That is what we're counting on in order to reinvest back into this squad. You know, if we sell him for 40, 45 million, that's pure profit coming back into the football club. But Manchester United's problem is that Alejandro Garnacho will only go to Chelsea. He's holding out for Chelsea, and Chelsea want to pay £30 million. Manchester United do not want to let Alejandro Garnacho go for £30 million. We look silly if we do that. I saw over the weekend Dango Ouattara from Bournemouth go for, I think it was around 47 million, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's joined Brentford. Dango Ouattara has joined Brentford from Bournemouth for, I think, around 47 million. And yet, Chelsea are offering us 30 million for Alejandro Garnacho because they're trying it on. They know that Garnacho will only move to them. They know that Alejandro Garnacho is worth more than 30 million in today's market. They sold Madueke for near enough 50 million to Arsenal. They bought Jamie Gittins for around 50 million. Like, they know he's worth more than that. But because they know that Garnacho will push this move until the end of the window, they will not budge. Manchester United don't want to budge either because we look silly accepting 30. And then by the time you get Alejandro Garnacho out, because we will come to some sort of agreement, one of the sides will blink. It's like a standoff. One of the sides will blink because Chelsea do want Garnacho. Garnacho needs to leave. He's put all his eggs in the Chelsea basket, and United need to get rid, and they need that money coming in. By the time you've got the money, the guaranteed pure profit coming in for Alejandro Garnacho, the transfer window's closed and you can't go out and go and get a midfielder, go and get a goalkeeper. It's too late. So that's the predicament that Manchester United are in with Alejandro Garnacho. Malapam Mashallah says, Hutchinson went to Forest for 40 million. We can't let Garner go for less. I mean, what would you do, by the way, guys? Would you, if it got to the point where they were genuinely only putting forward like 30 million, would you let Alejandro Garnacho rot in the reserves for the season, or would you just take the L and sell him? Would you just take it and understand you're not going to be able to get that money for him and kind of take the loss on that of what you thought you were going to get? It's still pure profit, but other clubs are going to be looking and thinking, you've sold a £50 million asset for 30 million. Like, it sets a precedent that players can just get what they want if they hang in there. So how would you deal with that? So many comments already coming in saying let him rot, send him to the reserves. Got so many super chats coming in as well that I'll get to in a second. But you also have, I mean, it's different. It's a different situation because Sancho isn't pure profit and he's been one of the worst financial decisions we've ever made at this football club. Genuinely. But it's got to the point now with Jadon Sancho that you just, you feel like giving up. You're in a situation with Jadon Sancho now, and Romano put this out earlier, that Jadon Sancho currently not accepting the AS Roma proposal and not even in talks with Besiktas as of now. No agreement between Sancho and Roma on personal terms, despite Manchester United ready to accept a £20 million bid. Besiktas' deal in standby as Sancho won't consider Turkey before September. So you've got a situation where despite him being, in my opinion, pretty poor for the last 3 years of his career. I don't even know how to time frame it. At Chelsea, he had sparks and spells. You've still got a club there in Roma who, have European pedigree, offering £20 million for you, which would mean Manchester United get £25 million in total for Jadon Sancho, as Chelsea did pay the £5 penalty fee. Roma have a bit of pedigree. English players have gone there and done well. Roma are a good side, and you've been pretty poor for 3 years of your career, if not more. I can't really work out the timescales just on the spot. And yet you're still refusing to go. Chelsea offered him, I think they offered him around 120 grand a week, something along them lines. It was just over 100 grand a week. His boyhood club, competing in the Champions League, he said no. There's been other clubs come forward. He said no. And do you want to know why Jadon Sancho is saying no? And do you want to know why Manchester United should just accept a loan deal now? There is no way that guy is taking a permanent move. I'll hold my hands up and I'll say, you know what? Fair play, I was wrong. But his priority is money. He wants to go on loan and continue to earn 350 grand a week, leave on a free next season, get a signing on bonus and get as much money as he possibly can. His mentality and attitude is that poor that he's not even bothered about getting in the England team. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Jadon Sancho thinks, in fact, I fancy this summer off. More time to go on holiday and play on my PS5. I wouldn't be surprised, because that's what I get from him. And it frustrates me so much, because I think to myself, he's got a God-given talent, an amazing talent. Could you imagine what Jadon Sancho would actually be like if he had that mentality to make the best of his career, had that hunger, that fire in his belly? I could see from the early days at United when he was there, he just didn't look like he had any hunger, any fire in his belly to go out there and fight for the shirt or even fight for himself. Yet he's got to this point and he's played for Man United, he's played for Chelsea, he's played for Dortmund. He clearly, look at his numbers when he was in, the Bundesliga playing for Dortmund. His numbers were off the scale. He's got incredible talent within him, but his mentality is so poor, he's not got anywhere near the best out of it. And I would say he's probably one of the worst ever signings that Manchester United has made. And do you know what? You can blame Jadon Sancho. You can do whatever you want surrounding Jadon Sancho. You can criticise him for his decisions over his own football career, his performances at Manchester United. But what you can do is you can also blame the board and the decision makers at that time for bringing him in on such a lucrative contract. I think he was, 21 years old when he signed for Manchester United, and we instantly gave him 350 grand a week. Whoever signed off that decision, I don't want to harp on about it because it's a different leadership team now. And of course, Ineos and the current regime are not at fault for that. They have to deal with that. And we are changing the wage structure. We are changing them bad decisions. But as much as you can criticise Jadon Sancho for not taking the Roma move, not making it easier for us, somebody at Manchester United gave him that contract, scouted him, didn't do the background checks on his personality, on his mentality. And that is where the blame lies. And I was talking to my brother last night about this. On the way home from the studio, I rang him and I was like, what do you think of the game? And he was, saying things as we were saying. Certain players were class, we look so much better, blah, 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 blah. And then he was saying, by the way, no wonder we were coming 15th. No wonder we were so poor with players with the attitudes of, Sancho and Garnacho that just, they've shown the true colours. And I'm just glad that Ruben Amorim is changing that culture and Ineos have actually changed that wage structure and also, supporting Amorim in changing that culture. That's all you can say. But Jadon Sancho, I would be absolutely gobsmacked if he left on a permanent deal and got us some money. £20 million would do Manchester United so much good now for him. That's 25 million in total for Jadon Sancho. But United can't force him to leave. He can just sit there and wait out his contract on 350 grand a week. And that is where we're struggling. And should Manchester United make it more difficult for these players? Should they fine them at any given chance they get? Put them in the under-21s? Even I don't know what you can do to make them take that deal for a year. But it's like you can't even threaten Jadon Sancho with the World Cup because he probably doesn't care, like I just said. So, yeah, it's a difficult one for Manchester United. And this is, by the way, when you're looking at why we can't get in a goalkeeper and get in a midfielder, Jadon Sancho, Garnacho, they are the reasons. And okay, I'm not saying they should be sat there saying, I need to leave and take less money so Man United can go and get a goalkeeper and a midfielder. No, I'm not saying that. They should leave for their own career. Garnacho's got the chance to go to a World Cup with Argentina, who have a strong chance of winning it. Yet he's not had any pre-season. And Chelsea, there is immense competition on that left-hand side and on the winger spots. He's putting his chances of, being in a World Cup winning side in jeopardy. He might still go on and do it. He might back himself to go and be the starting left winger. And, he might have kept himself ridiculously fit. But pre-season is massive in players. It's frustrating. And again, I'm not directly blaming Garnacho and Sancho for this, but with Jadon Sancho, you can blame the people who have been here before making them decisions. Andreas Goose says, let him rot and see how good he is, not playing for a whole year. He'll be lucky if he gets any offers he has currently. His next salary will be very low. I mean, that's the thing. If he did, I don't think there's a situation where he stays, but if he did, I mean, a year off playing professional football is just, it's a killer. Even if he's not injured, it's an absolute killer. You've seen players who've been out injured for a year, and sometimes they've never recovered. They've just never recovered. So it would be massive if Manchester United did make that statement, but Ruben Amorim would get asked about him all the time. You're paying a wage. I know it's not massive. You've still missed out on pure profit, and you'd never be able to get that money again, even the following year. But then you are teaching him a lesson, and you're showing every single other player that ever walks through the door of this football club, you can't just dig your heels in and get what you want. So it's a decision for United to make. You have Exponent says, Botafogo goalkeeper John Victor for 8 million. We can afford 8 million. Interesting take. Kill Robinson says, for the sake of future credibility, we cannot sell Nacho lower than our asking price. So Kiel Robinson on the credibility side of things, which I've just mentioned. David33 says, let them both rot playing FIFA for a whole season. Ross Stephen 13 says, hey Beth, do you agree with the way Ruben spoke to the press about the keepers yesterday? I'm all for him defending players. I just felt it was a bit over the top and felt like he wasn't happy with the performance. I'll come back to that one. Alfie says, Ugarte is so bad. The fact he broke his foot and played with 1 foot. In fact, the fact is, if he broke his foot and played with 1 foot, he would look better. That's harsh. But Ugarte's been really poor as of late, and his first touch and his press resistance, especially on the edge of our own box, has to improve, or else he won't be able to play in the Premier League in that team. It just has to. He puts us in way too many dangerous situations that cost us. Risik Mungal says, hi Beth, trust you well, looking good today. We need a goalkeeper. Bindir and Nana are of the same class, useless. Emi Martinez would be a good addition, so would Youngland. Can't wait for 2026. Well, I'll come onto that super chat and onto Ross's super chat there saying, do you agree the way Ruben spoke about his keepers? I'm going to answer that now because obviously we want these outgoings to happen so we can bring a keeper in. But the way, to me, and I might be completely misreading it, but the way Ruben Amorim backed Bayindir in the press conference was, there's 2 different things that came to mind when I was watching it. Well, there was 3 actually. The first thing was, I would not want to be a player on the end of one of his hairdryer treatments. I tell you that for a fact. I bet Garnacho absolutely got it after that Europa League final when he told him to find a new club. Did you see the way his eyes changed? I was like, I would not be wanting to be in the dressing room getting a telling off from Ruben Amorim. That's the first thing. The second thing was, I think Ruben Amorim knows there is a very good chance that he is not getting a goalkeeper this summer. He basically said it. He basically said there's not a great chance of him getting a goalkeeper. So what is he going to do? He's not going to come out and say, both my goalkeepers are rubbish, don't want either of them. Because they've got to get him through a season. I think Ruben Amorim might have accepted his fate. And the fact he backed Bayindir so heavily makes me think he might go with Bayindir for the season. He might do that. I genuinely would not be surprised if he goes with Bayindir for the season. And Onana and Bayindir are much of a muchness. They're both poor and they both have big errors in them that can cost us games. But Ruben Amorim might be sat there and I just wonder to myself, if he's been told, look, Ruben, we're probably not going to be able to get you a keeper this year. We might be able to get you Seni Lamans, but I don't know if he's ready to be a first choice. To be honest with you, a young keeper that you could progress. He might be sat there thinking, I'm not getting a keeper. I need to give Bayindir some confidence because I think I'm going to go with him this year. And what I think he might be waiting to do, because we know as soon as he came into this football club, he identified the goalkeeper as a position he wanted to get a new player into. We know that he rung Diogo Costa and said, I want you to be my number 1 goalkeeper at Manchester United. I think he might be thinking, I'll get Diogo Costa next summer. I'm going to deal with Onana and Bayindir this year. I can't physically get Onana out, but I'm going to let Onana know he's not my guy and he's not my first choice, because I might be wrong on this, but he literally said Onana isn't injured. Tom Heaton and Bayindir played well in pre-season, so I picked them. I know Onana was injured, that's absolutely true, and he's maybe not fully fit enough to start against Arsenal, but he could have just said Onana's had an injury, he's not fully fit enough to start against Arsenal. But he made a point before the game by saying Bayindir and Tom Heaton played well in pre-season, so they're the ones in the team. And the way he defended Bayindir in that presser, is he going to go with Bayindir? It makes me think that. Or he just fiercely defended Bayindir because he knows deep down that mistake cost us the game. But the team played so well, he was just so angry because that's maybe a decision he made, and he thinks to himself that decision might have cost him the game, so he just fiercely backed it in kind of a sense of in denial. I don't know. But it was a big reaction. It was a big reaction. I mean, what would you do? Would you go with Onana? Would you go with Bayindir? I mean, what do you think Ruben Amorim will do? He might well go back to Onana, but the way he backed Bayindir was very, very fierce. Woozy says, "Hi Beth, I was going to ask, am I the only one who, through Amorim, might have Bayindir as number one after the tone on the statement, or was that just spin from him?" Well, that's what I've just said there. I did think that by the way he defended him. Desire Labonte says, "Beth, if Ineos gave you the choice to get any goalkeeper and centre mid now, or wait a season, you'll get Baleba and Costa." I mean, that's never going to happen, so it's hypothetical. On the midfielder, I would wait for Baleba. I think Baleba's that good. I think I'd wait. Going to speak about the midfielder in a second. I'd rather wait, unless it was someone like an Adam Wharton level. Then I'd get a midfielder in now. But if it's just going to be someone makeshift, I'd just wait and save the money for Baleba. In regards to a keeper, I'm not too fussed about Diogo Costa, to be honest with you. I think he's got a mistake in him. If Donnarumma is available, I think United have to go for it. He's the best keeper in the world, in my opinion, or if not up there. I think if Donnarumma is there, you have to go for it. But United have briefed that we're not going to do it, so it kind of feels pointless talking about it. But United should be doing that. After that Bayindir performance, mistake. I should say mistake because I thought the rest of his performance was actually all right. I think some of his passing was good. But after that Bayindir mistake, and the fact he's made that mistake before as well, if I'm United, I'm just thinking, sack it, I'm going all in for Donnarumma if the money's there. But like I said, lack of exits is blocking that. Perkle says, if Sancho wants to do a Jack Roswell, let him. It didn't work for Rodwell either in the end. He has ruined his reputation. Thank you everyone for the super chats coming in. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Andreas Goose says, I know it's a long shot, but Edison is only 8 million. We're not getting Edison. It's a long shot, but we're not getting Edison. Ian Tracy said, I'd get Garnacho now if we refuse 30 million and let him rot in the reserves for a year. We're not going to get more than 30 million for him next year anyway. Ian Tracy on the opposite end of the scale thinking just take the money and run with it. And I kind of get where you're coming from. It's a tough one, but United have to make that decision. Bit more news regarding the exits that I'll bring in. I mean, some of it I just think is rubbish. But basically, Napoli are back on the market now for a new striker, as reported yesterday, due to a serious injury to Romelu Lukaku. The Belgian striker suffered a muscle injury and won't be available for the next 3 months at least. And that's from Romano. And then it came out from Italian sources that Antonio Conte wants Napoli to sign Joshua Zirkzee as Romelu Lukaku is sidelined for a few months. I also thought to myself, could this open the door to Rasmus Hojlund going to Napoli? We know a lot of Italian clubs have looked at him and hold serious interest in him. Zirkzee isn't going anywhere. Amorim likes him. He likes that versatile option. He's the different option to Sesko. Sesko is the same kind of calibre, same profile as Hojlund, which is why Amorim said he left Hojlund out the squad. That's why we're trying to push Hojlund out. Amorim and the coaching staff really like Zirkzee. He's not going. However, that Napoli, we have a striker. Why don't, Hojlund, that could be one that they look at. Also, AC Milan sporting director on Rasmus Hojlund said, Rasmus Hojlund is a good option for us. We're evaluating him these days. and the transfer market is unpredictable, so a little bit of a hint there that they might head towards Rasmus. Well, they are trying to get Rasmus Hojlund. And honestly, if I'm anyone close to Rasmus Hojlund right now, I'd say to him, look, you've had a tough ride of it, you've been dealt a bad hand, and I do feel a bit sorry for you for the way that your journey's gone at United. You should have done better, but the club should have handled your journey so much better. But look, you've been left out the squad. You're not going to get any minutes this season. Get yourself to Milan. Get yourself over to Italy. You've done it there before. You know Serie A. You can kick on. You can go and prove everyone wrong. Go and prove everyone wrong. That's what I'd be doing. I think, considering how poor of a year Hojlund had last year, I think, clubs like AC Milan, potentially Napoli even going for him, I would take that move and go and try and prove everybody what you're made of. That's what I'd be doing. And I do think Hojlund will go. I think he has to. Now, Amorim's left him out of the squad, and he's going to leave him out of the squad again next week if he's still here. He's got to make that move happen, and I think it will happen. The last thing I wanted to kind of talk about, there was also this to bring in news-wise from Samuel Luckhurst. Dressing room sources say the players believe they made clear strides with their performance against Arsenal. A second source said the squad felt the performance was much better than how United fared in the majority of their home matches last season. That's absolutely true. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to work that one out. I think that's what the majority of people have been saying. Manchester United absolutely made clear strides, and I'm glad that the players feel that too, according to that source. And I'm glad that the dressing room feels that, because that is the most shots we've had against Arsenal since that 8-2. Since we beat him 8-2, that's the most shots we've had against Arsenal. That is the most possession we've had against Arsenal, 61% since 2015. In 10 years, we had Arsenal pinned in, and in my opinion, we dominated them. They did have a few chances, but we were by far the better team. By far the better team. So I'm glad to hear that the dressing room picks up on that. If I'm in the dressing room, I'm just thinking, God, imagine if we had a midfielder and a goalkeeper. We're close. We're close. And that's just making strides to compete for, I think, European Champions League football. If we add that, then you're looking towards that. There's other areas that eventually you can kind of tinker and look at, but the goalkeeper and the midfielder is so glaringly obvious. But right now, this is what I wanted to kind of finish up the show talking about, and please get your comments in, get your super chats in, and if you watch the fans forum, you'll know what I'm talking about here. I think there is a big midfield dilemma right now for Ruben Amorim. Not only the fact that we need to bring a midfielder in, I think Bruno Fernandes is a dilemma. And if you've watched the United stand for a long time, and you've watched my shows, you will know how much I love Bruno Fernandes. He's my favourite Man United player of the last decade, I would say. I absolutely love Bruno Fernandes, and I do actually think he will go down as a United great / legend. But I'm also not blinded by Player FC, and I've been looking at this situation for quite a while before I really kind of said anything, and I'm hoping it is going to change, because I don't think Ruben Amorim's going to change it. I think he's going to stick with it. I think Bruno Fernandes is an excellent player. I think he's one of the most talented players we've had, if not one of the most talented players we've had at the club in the last decade. I think he is, at his best, one of the best midfielders in the league. I think he's absolutely fantastic. However, I do not think he's going to work long term in that midfield too. I think he can work as an 8 in a 4-3-3 when he has two other midfielders covering for him. But in that two-man midfield structure that Amorim has, I just don't think he's going to work there. I don't think his best attributes are suited to that. I think as a 10, that's his best position. I think as a 10 in a 4-3-3, that's his best position. I think even as an 8 in a 4-3-3, he can do it. We've seen it under Ten Hag. We've seen it with Portugal. But in that particular setup, I just don't know if he's going to be able to be the player that Amorim needs him to be there. I think he's a brilliant player. I just think asking him to play that role, it doesn't suit his best attributes. I hope he proves me wrong. It is just the first game of the season, but it's not the first time I thought it. I thought it in the Europa League final, big time. I was so gutted after that Europa League final. I had to just genuinely like compose myself, and I had a long, hard think about it for a long time. I didn't want to go too hard in on Bruno because he's had so many other good performances for us, and he's a big reason why we won the FA Cup the year before. His performance in that FA Cup was off the scale. It was so good. Him and Kobbie Mainoo were standouts for me in that game. Amrabat as well was really good. But I just think in that midfield too, I just don't... we're looking for the perfect midfielder to go next to him, like a Baleba, and potentially with a Baleba it will work. But I think Amorim does have a bit of a dilemma now, and I mentioned it slightly on the forum yesterday. And it's just whether... I mean, first of all, you have Kobbie Mainoo, who didn't even get a minute. And if you're Kobbie Mainoo and you want to go to the World Cup, bear in mind he started in the Euros final the last time England played a major tournament. He got himself into that starting 11 throughout that tournament. If you're Kobbie Mainoo and you want to go to the World Cup, you're looking at this situation thinking, am I going to get minutes? We're going to play one game a week for the majority of the season. Cup games, okay, yeah, but we're not in Europe, and he didn't even get off the bench in the first game of the season, really important game. So if you're Kobbie Mainoo, you've got a big task on your hands, and I think it's unfortunate that he's not getting any minutes. And also, it's a big if. If Mason Mount can stay fit, he's a player. Like, people don't want to know about it because he's not popular and because he's been injured so long, but he is a player. And if he plays like he did yesterday, it's going to give Amorim a dilemma. Amorim himself has said he could potentially play in the midfield pivot. And I got this message on X, and I wanted to read it out. And again, you don't have to agree with it. I know not many people do, but I want to talk about it. And this was the message. I just kind of wanted to read out a portion of it. But Mount, he has the brain, composure, work rate. He keeps the ball. His passing is great and intelligent. He's the best presser in the squad. The work ethic, i.e. look where he was to get back against Saka yesterday. He was a joy to watch, and it's just obvious this guy has to play when it matters, which the manager also knows, and that's why he's picked him in every single big game when he's been available. What the guys missed yesterday, and what a lot of people don't understand, is that you have to be in the position in these big games to create these chances. They don't just happen easily. So when people say there's no one in the box, that's why we need Sesko, but you have to get into that position in the first place. We might not need Mount at home to Burnley, Sunderland and all that, because we will create enough chances with the other players. But in these big games, he is vital. He actually dictated our whole control of the game yesterday, and to do that from playing where he was is not easy. Cunha and him absolutely loved playing together, and as I started typing this, I was saying for the Fulham, I do think that there'll only be one change: Dalot out, Ahmad in. Mount out to Sesko is a no-brainer, is what they were saying, but I'm not sure. So basically, just talking about how important Mason Mount was yesterday, and I want to give him the credit because I feel like it's because the fact he took the number 7, and because he's not been fit, and because, you know, he's not been at his best at Manchester United, when he does play a game like that, he doesn't always get the credit. But that's going to be a big dilemma as well, because he did, I agree with that chat, he did play really well with Cunha. Cunha and Mbeumo, absolute ballers, and they were playing great together, and they are starting. They are absolutely starting in the starting 11. So then you look to the midfield. Sesko is going to eventually play. You need a striker in the box. You do. Like, you need a striker in that box, and you want to be playing with a striker. You want to be playing with an out-and-out goal scorer. You know, we've paid a lot of money for him. If Mason Mount gets injured again, which, if you look at the past, might happen, then it solved that dilemma. But if Mason Mount stays fit and plays the way he did yesterday, it's going to cause a dilemma as well for Ruben Amorim, I think. In there, and Kobbie Mainoo, who is literally sat on the bench and not even getting a minute, and in my opinion is one of the best talents to come out of Carrington in a very long time. So this Bruno midfield thing, it's going to have to work for Ruben Amorim, or else there's going to be people, if it continues to cause us problems, there's going to be fans going to be looking at it thinking, Mainoo's there, you know, Mount's there, like, are we going to change anything? And I love Bruno Fernandes 2 bits. I think he's a brilliant player. I'm just not sure if that midfield position is his best position. I think the number 10 is his best position, but we've just signed 2 number 10s in Cunha and Mbeumo who complement each other super well. But Bruno Fernandes is capable of incredible things, and I hope that he absolutely smashes it and has an amazing season and learns that role and executes it in a way that we need for us to be winning games. So let's hope, because he is capable of it. He's got the talent there. I just don't know if that's where you get the best out of him. Frank Skills says, get Giorgio Mamadashvili as our new keeper. That's not going to happen either. Good keeper, but it's not going to happen. Gaz Wilson says, why did we sign Ugarte over Amrabat for 5 times as much? Amrabat was never the future though either. Adanu says, besides the goalkeeper and the centre mid, we don't need any big signings next summer, so we should just spend big on Baleba and offer 30 million for Martinez now. Well, that's one you can look at. Will Emi Martinez start for Villa next game? If he doesn't, maybe there's something you can be done there with the kind of fallout and the unsettled player. Frank Skills says, I keep Garnacho around to add depth to the squad. Ruben Amorim would say the same thing he said about Rashford. He'd rather play Jorge Vital, his coach, than play Garnacho at this point. There's no point. Thank you, everyone, for your super chat. Structural Mastery says, Sancho rejected Roma, send him to the under-10s for a year. We'll just get him out on loan to help cover the wage, because we're not going to want to pay 350 grand a week. Also, just quickly before we go, this is coming out actually here. Oh, okay, it's kind of shutting it down. It's come from the Standard Sport that reports stating Fulham have inquired about Rasmus Hojlund are wide of the mark. I didn't even know that them reports were about. Some people in the chat said there was Onana to Inter rumours, but I've not seen any of them at all either. But look, everyone, that is all of the news from today's show. Thank you very, very much for all getting in the comments, getting your opinions in. It's great to have the community back talking about the game. And even though we lost, which is, it's always going to be frustrating when you lose a football game at a club like Manchester United, there is so many positives to take and there's so many talking points. And there's debates to be had. There's certain people that, think players should be in the starting 11 that are on the bench. There's people that, like the way Amorim's setting up and think we're pretty close. Like there's so many different opinions, and it's great to hear everyone getting their comments in the chat as well. Smash a like on the video if you've not already. And remember to head over to That's Football straight after the show. Go and look at the video that Goldberg just put up there. Really interesting talking points. Make sure you head over and go and watch that. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.